Zixin, are you really going to watch it? Shen Qingqing wasn't optimistic towards the movie either. As a loyal novel fan, she knew that switching the main characters of a story was a huge taboo. Shu Zixin couldn't help but laugh. It's perfect for me. I like new things. You never know, maybe it's good. Let's start the game first. Song Qingfong decided to ignore her and glanced over at Lin Shao and Chulao. Maybe we'll pass the game in the next few days. Shu Zixin, on the other hand, realized that Resident Evil 1 movie version was quickly unlocked in the super theater after she paid. She quickly clicked into the movie. Then, she saw a red and white icon appear before her. This icon was often seen in the mansion of Resident Evil 1. It was the Umbrella Corporation's logo. However, all that showed on Shu Zixin's computer screen was a poster and nothing else. Fan Qi froze for a second. It's encrypted. He originally wanted to find out the difference between the system's version of the movie and the version he had seen before in his previous life. But it seemed like he had to watch it on the computer himself. The good news was, although his system was stingy, as the owner of the internet cafe, everything was free for him. Therefore, he turned on one of the vacant computers. At the beginning of the 21st century, the Umbrella Corporation had become the largest for-profit corporation in the United States. The movie began. Shu Zixin realized that not only could she see all this background information, this knowledge flowed into her brain and allowed her to understand every word that was being said. 9 out of 10 family used its products. Its political and financial influence is felt everywhere. In public, it is the world's leading supplier of computer technology and healthcare products. Unknown to a lot of its own employees, its massive profits were generated by military technology, genetic experimentation, and biochemical weaponry. I see now. After watching this background information, Shu Zixin even understood what biochemical weaponry and genetic experimentation were. It was as if she learned this knowledge through reading a book, but it was clearly reflected in her mind. Soon, she realized that she was at a research base. A researcher wearing an exposure suit was at the control desk, taking out light blue and green test tubes, one by one. Although this person was wearing the uniform of a researcher, he didn't seem like one. Rather, he looked like a thief. After taking all the test tubes, that man threw out a blue test tube, which smashed into pieces upon contacting a metal platform. If Fan Qi were watching, he would immediately recognize that it was a test tube containing the T-virus. The light blue liquid slowly vaporized and flowed into each of the labs through the vents. Quickly realizing that something was wrong, all the tunnels were closed, trapping all possible people who were infected inside the underground lab in an attempt to stop the virus from spreading. When the search and rescue team sent by the Umbrella Corporation arrived, Resident Evil began. Shu Zixin felt like she had traveled into another space, and everything was happening right in front of her. It was such a surreal feeling. Aside from the fact that she couldn't touch anyone or anything, she felt like she was inside a new world. She could clearly see everything that was happening between the main characters. She had to admit that the movie version of Resident Evil made her more nervous. Shu Zixin stood before the researchers. They couldn't see her, but she could see all of them. She saw them slowly turn into zombies. She saw the entire process. She felt a despair, seeing them transform but not being able to do anything about it. The thought of these humans in here all changing into zombies brought cold bumps onto her skin. It was scary enough to see zombies in the game. But all these people here would soon turn into zombies. This was a zombie horde. A few zombies were hard enough to defeat. What were they going to do about a zombie horde? She couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness that I don't have to experience this for myself. This isn't somewhere a human should be. It was hell. Although she knew that the zombies couldn't hurt her, it was still horrifying to see them. When she saw the main characters barge into this hell of a laboratory, she couldn't help but worry about them. When she saw that the African-American team member get dismembered in the laser hallway, she shrieked in fear. What kind of weapon is this? Everything in the movie was magical. A few streaks of light could dismember a human being. These weapons and guns, what kind of spiritual artifacts are they? Then, the Red Queen, who controlled everything, was turned off by a little black box. Her understanding of this entire world changed. At the same time, Fan Qi was watching the movie as well. He noticed that although the movie looked like the original version, it was actually quite different. For example, the combat looked too realistic and too terrifying. Even though Fan Qi learned most of Chris's combat skills, he could still learn a lot from watching the movie. Yes, he could learn them. Fan Qi noticed that combat experiences and skills flowed into his mind like invisible knowledge streams. Their shooting skills, their movements, and their steps were meticulous and accurate as well. It was so meticulous that Fan Qi thought this wasn't a movie. Rather, it was a real battle that was happening somewhere on Earth. The system never disappoints, Fan Qi couldn't help but exclaim. At this moment, Shu Zixin saw countless zombies being released. As the flood of zombies appeared and dismembered the skilled teammates, the movie reached its climax. Soon, the Lickers were released as well. These monsters weren't as powerful as hunters, but their speed was much faster. So fast that humans couldn't even react to it. Therefore, they could easily dodge bullets. With steel-breaking sharp claws and horrifying tongues, these monsters were murder machines. Any human would die at its touch. This is so scary. I didn't think there would be monsters as scary as these ones aside from the hunters. They can dodge bullets. Shu Zixin's heart was in her throat this entire time. When she saw the main character run away with the last remaining team member, Mark, she let out a sigh of relief. However, the final scene appeared. The entire city became a land of zombies. Everyone turned into zombies. Everything that she was worried about happened before her eyes. It was shocking. It was as if she was the only one left in this world, and that terrible feeling of loneliness ate her up like a flood. Is this the end of the world? She felt the pressure, and her breathing became rapid as she felt like doomsday was coming. In the end, the main character was the only human left in the city. This scene replayed again and again in her mind. After a long time, Shu Zixin suddenly heard a familiar voice sounding from beside her. Zixin, how was it? Was it good? Qingqing. She turned around and grabbed Shen Qingqing's hand emotionally. The movie version of Resident Evil 1 is so shocking. I never thought that the plot would be like this. Is it really the good? Shen Qingqing was confused. Didn't the main character change? How can it still be good? It's good. Chu Zixin said, did you know what we were worried about really happened? It was shocking. The entire city was infected. Everyone turned into zombies. I really want to know what would happen to the main character in the next movie. The last scene of the movie left Chu Zixin somewhat emotional. Fan Ki's internet cafe wasn't as noisy as the ones he went to on Earth, and everyone was quietly playing their games. Therefore, what Chu Zixin said caught people's attention. You witnessed what happened to the main character with your own eyes. The T-virus was leaked. Everyone was infected by the zombie virus. Zombie horde, end of the world. Although they only heard snippets of what she said, they were all still dumbstruck. The sheer number of zombies in the game gave them a headache, but there was a zombie horde in the movie version. How much scarier did it have to be? Song King-fong and the others, who didn't care for the movie version and were unhappy about the change in main characters, became curious at this. What are you talking about? A zombie horde? After seeing what happened the last 2 mornings, Liang Shi and his friends came slightly later. However, out of the 6 of them, 2 didn't have spots to sit because they came too late. The new Resident Evil 1 movie, Lin Xiao explained. He was hesitating as he asked his friends, should we watch it as well? Maybe we should watch it. Lin Xiao had already encountered the hunter, but it was too strong for a young man like him, who had just reached the warrior stage. Even Liang Shi, a top-tier master warrior, didn't know what to do with the hunters since he couldn't use his warrior key in the game. Lin Xiao was somewhat exhausted by the high-intensity combat, so he replied, plus, we only need to watch during the movie. We can consider it his taking a break. Are you really going to watch it? Song King-fong was a little curious as well, but he pretended that he didn't waver since he was a loyal gaming fan. It's not the same story. What's so good about it? I'm a little tired from playing the game anyways. Lin Xiao and the others made little progress in the game. Therefore, they wanted to watch the movie and find out what the difference was. It's not the same story. As soon as Liang Shi and the others heard this, they shook their heads. They were waiting for a continuation of the game. What was so good about something that wasn't even a part of the original game plot? The movie cost 3 crystals on its own. Incorporating that to the crystals they had to pay to use the computers, the total number of crystals needed for the movie was high and not worth the money for Liang Shi and his friends. Although what Chu Zixin said sparked the interest of many, people had different opinions. Chu Zixin might like it, but that didn't mean everyone would as well. Moreover, everyone present were avid gaming fans of Resident Evil 1. As soon as they heard that the main character changed, they lost interest, and most people decided to observe first. Therefore, only Lin Xiao, Chu Lao, Shen Qingqing, and a couple others watched the movie. The equipment in here is so high-end. Did they research the T-virus here? This is so inhumane. How can they lock everyone in the lab and just let them become zombies? They were shocked to see humans transforming into zombies. If Resident Evil 1 was a scary game with a new theme, then Resident Evil 1, movie version, was an unimaginable and horrifying calamity. Everyone they saw in the game were heroes, and there was an amazing happy ending. However, what they saw in the movie was a giant catastrophe. Everything they were worried about and everything they assumed about the T-virus became reality. 1 second ago, these people had their own thoughts and feelings. However, in the next second, they had become monsters that were mindless and ravenous. To some extent, the shock that this movie brought on to its viewers was even more than the game. However, they noticed that although the humans in this world didn't practice warrior ki, their combat skills were still as amazing as could be. Aside from knowing their enemies, the main characters were also aware of their surrounding environments. More often than not, victory was determined by the tiny details. The physical and gunfights left the viewers in a daze, and the intense escape left them deeply absorbed. They didn't want to miss any details. In the end, when everyone turned into zombies, they were still recovering from the shock. How was it? Song King-fong calculated the time and couldn't help but ask, I told you that it wasn't going to be good, didn't I? It was amazing. To his surprise, Lin Xiao's face lit up. The contents of the game are just the tip of an iceberg. There is a bigger world in the movie. Just now, I experienced everything the main character experienced. A world that is on the edge of extinction. Biochemical viruses threaten the world. Isn't that good? Should we try as well? Li 11 and Li Ping glanced at each other. Is it really that good? Song King-fong was still unconvinced. For these rich young people, 3 crystals weren't a lot, but it wasn't nothing. Spending that amount of money to buy the plot of Resident Evil 1 was enough to prove how much they liked this series, but not everyone had that much money. Wang Dai and other players who didn't have that much crystals were still on the fence about watching the movie. After all, playing the game was good for their cultivation. The movie, on the other hand, was just for fun. Although they were curious, they couldn't spend 3 crystals just like that. Dejected, Wang Dai asked, Ki, can't we watch the movie through someone else's screen, just like how we can watch others play? Fan Ki replied helplessly, I can't do anything about that. After all, the system was the one who did everything. Suddenly, a shriek came from beside him. Zixin, did you just kill a hunter with a dagger? Shen Qingqing was shocked. Not only did Chu Zixin kill a hunter with a dagger, it was the first time that she saw one. Although the process was difficult, it was still shocking. What? Someone killed a hunter with a dagger? Aside from the owner, who else could kill a hunter with a dagger without using their warrior key? Upon hearing this shriek, everyone turned their attention to Chu Zixin's screen. Although Jillian's screen wasn't in a good condition, the hunter did die in front of her. They could see that aside from knife cuts, there weren't any other injuries on the hunter. Is it really Chu Zixin? As a veteran player, a lot of people recognized her. How can she be so fast? Song King-fong couldn't help but feel shocked and unwilling. He practiced for so long already but still couldn't kill the hunter with his dagger. No matter how much warrior ki Chu Zixin had, she still couldn't use it in the game. He used to be the player with the fastest progress, right after Fan Ki. However, he had been stuck with the hunters and wasted a lot of time, enabling others to catch up to him. However, he wasn't worried because everyone had to pass the hunters with only daggers. Or else, they would run out of powerful bullets when fighting the tyrant and wouldn't be able to beat the game. But now, someone killed a hunter with a dagger, surpassing him. He couldn't accept this, no matter what. Shen Qingqing exclaimed, "How did you do that?" I think, confused, Xu Zixin recalled how she killed this hunter. I think after I watched the entire movie, the main character's combat skills seem to have been imprinted in my head. I feel like I can control my character more flexibly and diligently. Upon hearing this, they all thought about how their skills improved after playing the Resident Evil 1 virtual reality remake. Did the movie have the same effects? This is cheating. At this thought, Song Qingfeng shouted righteously, "Sir, you're forcing me to watch the movie." Fan Qi shrugged. "I'm not. Every transaction at my shop is voluntary." Song Qingfeng's face darkened. Lin Xiao and Chulao laughed loudly. "Young Master Song, just give in. The movie is really good." "Young Master Song," Li 11 smiled, "let's watch the movie together. If you're not happy afterward, we can teach these people a lesson." Fine, fine. Finally, Song Qingfeng succumbed to peer pressure and took out 3 crystals. I'd like to say that I'm watching to improve my skills. And I'm not at all interested in the contents of the movie. Half an hour later, oh my god, there are so many zombies. Look at her shooting skills. The main character is so cool. What the hell is this? It's even stronger than the hunters. Look how she dodged the bullet. It's so cool. After the movie, Lin Xiao and Chulao immediately asked him, "Young Master Song, what do you think?" Song Qingfeng's face darkened as he replied, a little embarrassed, "It's not too bad." "Really, it's just a little interesting." Lin Xiao and Chulao burst into laughter. "Screw you, I'm going to kill hunters now." Song Qingfeng looked even more gloomy. Soon, in the screen, Song Qingfeng held a dagger in his hand. Although there was blood all over his body, the hunter fell dead under his feet. He had been waiting for this for a long time. Although he couldn't kill hunters as swiftly as Fan Qi did, one of these powerful monsters was killed by him. He had to admit that it was a giant improvement. He was doing even better than Xu Zixin. "I did it." Song Qingfeng let out a sigh of relief. Watching the main character's battle is really helpful. Song Qingfeng was left speechless. "I feel like I'm a lot stronger when it comes to combat." Really, upon seeing that players were starting to kill hunters with daggers one after another, Liang Shi couldn't sit still any longer. "Sir, I want to watch Resident Evil 1 movie version as well." Liang Shi felt like crying. If he kept spending crystals like this, he was going to run out of his savings. "Me too." Wang Tai finally couldn't take it anymore and clenched his teeth. "Me first." The loyal gaming fans finally began to give in. Oh my god, the quality of this movie is just as good as the game. There's also a lot more background information. I finally know what the biochemical crisis is. Look at this scene. Is it just a novel? How did the author think of this? Although the main character changed, it's still amazing. I almost fell asleep reading the most popular novel, Celestial Warrior, but this I'm getting more excited the more I watch. This laboratory is much more dangerous than the mansion. Wait, I'm falling for this cool foreign girl. Her movements are so swift and crisp. Right now, there were quite a few people in Fan Qi's internet cafe. He was relieved that he added the new rule about waiting in line. Moreover, everyone was aware of the 6-hour rule and the midnight closing time. Fan Qi was glad that they were all abiding by the rules. Therefore, although the internet cafe was busy, the players who were waiting discussed amongst themselves and didn't cause any chaos. During this time, the internet cafe became the most packed. However, players who arrived afterward were depressed upon seeing how many people were waiting to play. That was when 11 Qi and his friends came. After seeing the internet cafe at full capacity, his expression froze. It's still full, however, the players who were waiting were different from usual. Today, they each stood behind the computer, waiting to play as if everything was planned out. What was going on? He glanced over at the small blackboard and saw the following. Recently, the internet cafe has been popular. When there aren't any seats, please stand in line. Dejected, he pointed at the blackboard and asked, "Sir, we have to stand in line now." Fan Qi laughed. "Sorry, there are too many people." It didn't seem like he had a choice. 11 Qi looked depressed. He couldn't do anything but to wait in line. "Sir, you're out of seats already." The man with the mustache froze as soon as he entered. Not only were the seats all full, there weren't a lot of spots left for watching. He smiled bitterly and suggested, "Sir, I think you need to expand your shop." Fan Qi nodded in agreement. "I think so too. There is nowhere for me to play right now either." "Sir, when can you add a few more computers?" Frequent customers like Liang Shi began worrying as well. The good news was, although there were a lot of people in the shop, they all abided by the rules. Therefore, the atmosphere in the internet cafe wasn't bad, allowing Fan Qi to run the place with peace of mind. Probably in the next couple of days. That's good. Liang Shi looked around at the people standing behind him and felt a headache as well. Quickly, 11 Qi noticed that the people here were talking about new things and heard new vocabulary like movie version and Alice. Therefore, he immediately asked, "Sir, there's a new game?" Fan Qi shook his head and smiled as he pointed at the second line on his blackboard. 1 hour costs 2 crystals. Activating Resident Evil 1 costs 5 crystals. Purchasing Resident Evil 1 movie version costs 3 crystals. Each person can only play for 6 hours per day. Is that clear enough? Movie version. Confused, 11 Qi looked over at Fan Qi, seemingly interested. What's that? The game took place in the outskirts of Raccoon City, right? Fan Qi explained. The movie talks about what happened inside Raccoon City, but you could only watch and not play. I could only watch what the main characters experience. 11 Qi asked, "What's the fun in that? Isn't it more fun if I can play by myself?" 11 Qi lost interest in the movie version, so he stopped asking questions. Just then, the square-faced young man standing beside him exclaimed, "Song Qingfeng just killed a giant snake." Oh my god, it was so big. Song Qingfeng used to be hindered by the difficult to defeat hunters. However, as his combat skills improved, he picked up his pace and began to kill all the hunters that he couldn't kill before. I think I'll be able to pass the level soon. Song Qingfeng felt a little excited as he mumbled to himself. Song King-Fong's character was faced with a gigantic snake. Its mouth was wider than an adult man's shoulders, and it was capable of swallowing an entire human with one bite. Song King-Fong calmly dodged the snake's attacks with great agility. No one can be compared to his skills, right? A young warrior exclaimed. This warrior looked unfamiliar. Today seemed to be his first day here. Don't BS. The owner killed the tyrant without getting hurt, but Song King-Fong had already been struck by that snake. He's obviously not as good as the owner, Blackie said. He saw the way Fan Ki killed the tyrant the other day. Is the owner that good? The warrior was unconvinced since he was shocked by Song King-Fong's skills. Song King-Fong was able to dodge the snake perfectly after learning his lesson. I think when Song King-Fong fights the tyrant, he won't be injured either, another newbie who started playing Resident Evil 1 just yesterday said. They were obviously classmates. King-Fong is considered a genius in the Renjai Academy. He's one of the top 5 students. A game like this won't easily defeat him. Exactly. You didn't see how Song King-Fong killed the hunter with his dagger just now. The more he does it, the easier it seems. Hey, look at that girl, another student from the Renjai Academy said. I think she's a senior from the Chuan house. She's going to encounter the snake soon too, right? 11 Key felt like crying as a surge of jealousy overtook him. It has only been a day. Why is everyone killing hunters with daggers already? He, on the other hand, had only just killed the first boss. Wait, the owner plays this too. The man with the mustache heard this from the others and was a little surprised. Is it weird that I play? Fan Ki found it amusing. But there are too many people in the shop. I only get to play in the morning or evening when there are less people. Aside from early morning and late night, his shop was at full capacity. Of course, he didn't tell the others that he often played after the shop closed. Unwilling to give up, the man with the mustache asked, are you really not going to consider selling your computers? Fan Ki smiled and shook his head. I don't want to leave Wow City anymore. The man with the mustache smiled bitterly. Is there Resident Evil 2? Fan Ki replied, of course there is. When will you get it? Upon hearing Fan Ki's response, Liang Shi, 11 Key, and the others all surrounded him. Fan Ki pointed at the ceiling. Ask him. Asked the heavens. Liang Shi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Originally, a group of people stood behind and watched as Song King-Fong played. Now that the people who were playing were reaching their time limits, everyone found their seats and stopped watching him. Song King-Fong and the others' time limits are almost up, right? 11 Key came here at this time because he was waiting for Song King-Fong and the others to finish. He pointed at Song King-Fong and asked Fan Ki, sir, how much time do they have left? Fan Ki looked at the time, 1 minute. F*CK, why did you have to ask? Upon hearing that his time was about to be up, Lin Shao almost went crazy. You don't want your time to be up. 11 Key couldn't help but laugh. Would you like me to take my question back? Screw you. Lin Shao's face darkened as he got off his chair. 11 Key and the others laughed and quickly got into the seats, afraid that someone else would take their spot. Then, they turned around and smiled at Song King-Fong and the others. Bye. Go away. 11 Key came with at least a dozen others. Of course, half of them were just curious as to what this shop did and didn't have the urge to play. Therefore, they surrounded 11 Key and his other friends. As soon as 11 Key got onto the computer, he quickly opened the game and began lecturing the young men behind him. Look at this. This is a handgun. It's as powerful as a warrior-level martial arts technique and can shoot through a person's head. Most importantly, it's extremely fast. I already have a Magnum revolver. How can you flaunt your samurai-edge handgun in front of these people? Lin Shao, who didn't leave yet, immediately mumbled upon hearing what 11 Key said. 11 Key almost spat out blood. He replied coldly, I thought your time was up. Shouldn't you be going now? Chulawa laughed. Our time may be up, but we're allowed to watch, right? The owner didn't say we couldn't. 11 Key replied angrily, fine, fine, good for you. I bet you were just like this when you first played as well. There's so many people here. Lin Yun and Alan Mingqiu were shocked by what they saw upon walking into this little shop. Most importantly, no one came to greet them when they came in. Customers were huddled in circles doing God knows what, and the owner was chit-chatting with them. Weirdly enough, this place didn't seem to be in a mess at all. It was just popular. Alan Mingqiu's calm gaze landed on the blackboard by the door. This place is interesting. Don't you think it's weird? Lin Yun didn't understand what was happening. She followed Alan Mingqiu's gaze and saw the writing on the blackboard as well. It cost so many crystals to just try the game out. What a ripoff. How did the owner have the audacity to write if you want to play, play? If you don't, leave. What is more outrageous is there are so many customers scrambling to play. Look, are those students from Renjai Academy? Lin Yun's eyes widened in disbelief. Do you think that they were talking about this place this entire time? Why is this shop so popular? Aside from using demonic magic to enchant people, she couldn't think of any other reason. However, everything and everyone in this shop was so well ordered. It really didn't seem capable of creating anything evil. She sneered, this small shop is so tasteless. Fan Ki noticed the people who walked in. A tall, skinny woman walked in front. She was extremely beautiful but emitted an icy chill that made it hard for others to approach her. As soon as he saw her, Fan Ki had a feeling that she had a high status. However, she gave off a feeling that was different from Song King-Fong and other rich young men. Perhaps that was similar to the difference between the moon and the stars. When she walked in, she didn't set her eyes at one place. Instead, she observed everything around her. Song King-Fong and the others who were sucking up to Fan Ki, 11 Ki who was intently playing the game, and Fan Ki who was lying in his giant armchair with a calm expression on his face. This girl isn't simple, the men with the mustache advised Fan Ki quietly, she might not be here with good intentions. Fan Ki, on the other hand, shrugged and laughed, in my shop, aside from me, there are only customers. Are you here to play the game or watch the movie? Fan Ki said calmly, I'm sorry, we're out of seats right now. If you want to try, you'll have to wait. Lin Yan's expression darkened. She had never seen an owner like Fan Ki. Moreover, how could a game cost so much? Did he just ask them to wait? Did he just ask them, the people of the Nalan family, to wait? This shop is for playing games? Lin Yan's expression was filled with contempt. If this shop sold valuable items, then its seclusion suited it. It was also fine if this shop was the entrance to some sort of black market. That way, she would understand why this place was so popular as well. But the owner said that this place was for games. So, people played games in this shop? Lin Yan didn't understand. 11 Xiao sat down beside Chu Zixin and watched her kill multiple hunters with her dagger. Finally, she couldn't help but ask, "Senior sister, why is everyone a lot stronger today than they were before?" "Because of the new movie," Chu Zixin replied casually. "There's a great deal of combat techniques in the movie. We were stuck at the hunters, but after watching the movie, we all learned how to kill hunters with our daggers." "That's amazing. Isn't that like the legendary warrior inheritance?" 11 Xiao exclaimed. "A little similar, but the movie version is really good. There's also a zombie horde and a new type of monster type called Lickers." Chu Zixin played her game as she introduced the movie to 11 Xiao. It was rare for a girl to come to the internet cafe, so she naturally wanted to talk to this cute, clever girl. "Would you like to try? Is the movie version really that good?" 11 Ki, who was fully immersed in his game, suddenly asked. No wonder Song King-Fawn and the others became so much better today. Could it be because of the movie? "Sir, how do I watch the movie?" they immediately asked Fan Ki. Lin Shao and his friends, who were laughing at 11 Ki just now, suddenly felt speechless. They found out. Everyone who came early knows about it. How much longer did you think you could keep it a secret? Song King-Fawn rolled his eyes at Lin Shao and Chilao. The crowd occasionally discussed amongst themselves. It wasn't loud, but others could hear them clearly. Warrior inheritance? Lin Yan was shocked. How could this little shop be involved with a warrior inheritance? What warrior inheritance? She came back to her senses. Then, her expression darkened as she said to Nalan Mingchu, "This shop sure put in work to confuse and bewitch people. It's just a small shop. How can it be involved with a warrior inheritance?" She thought. If you don't know how to talk, just don't talk. Fan Ki walked up just in time to hear the conversation. His face twitched as he pointed at the blackboard. "The rules are clearly written here. If you want to play, play. If you don't, you can leave. First, you make others curious. Then, you pretend to be almighty and ask the customer to leave." Lin Yan said as she looked Fan Ki up and down. "You're young, but you sure are manipulative." Fan Ki was speechless, autistic. What did you say? Although Lin Yan didn't know what autistic means, she knew Fan Ki wasn't praising her. Therefore, her hand immediately moved to her sword handle by her waist. Fan Ki didn't care at all and pointed at the blackboard again, pretending not to see what she just did. "The consequence of causing trouble here is written on this board. Think about it before you take out your sword." Lin Yan glanced over at the blackboard again and smiled in disdain, asked to never return. "Is this the protest of the week?" "Ignorance sure is bliss." Fan Ki was at a loss for words. He waved his hand in the air and said, "Do whatever you want to." "Someone is causing trouble." Liang Shi's face darkened as he stood up. "Who has the guts to cause trouble here?" Song King-Fawn looked over. "Are you sick of living?" Wushan glanced over as well. The shop was small to begin with, so the customers quickly heard what was happening by the door and all looked over in an unfriendly manner. "This shop seems to be busy, but they're all your actors." Lin Yan realized what was happening. "Do you think I would be scared of you? Go back to what you're doing." Fan Ki immediately glared at the people who were playing and said, "No one can cause trouble in this shop, including you guys." Liang Shi froze for a second before saying dejectedly, "Sir, we're trying to help you here." Wushan complained, "What kind of rule is this?" "Don't be rash." Song King-Fawn's face froze upon seeing Nalan Mingchu. Even he had to be careful of the girl in white. "The owner is trying to help you all. Just look at the emblem on her sword. A rock bird on top and a python on the bottom. She's from the Nalan family." The crowd immediately gasped, and the angry people immediately went back to what they were doing. Upon seeing the crowd quieting down, Lin Yan looked at Fan Ki scornfully. "Your people are useless." Fan Ki's expression was calm. No one could tell what he was thinking. "Everyone has to abide by the rules of my shop." "What about you?" Lin Yan smiled as she looked at Fan Ki. "Do you have the abide by the rules as well?" "I'm sorry," Fan Ki laughed. "If it's not absolutely necessary, I won't resort to force either." "Are you looking down on me?" Lin Yan tightened her hand around the hilt of the sword. She was prepared to draw her sword any time now. How dare he laugh at a time like this? She wanted to teach this arrogant shop owner a lesson. Once he learns how to respect someone above him, then we can talk. However, not only did Fan Ki not back down, the smile on his face became brighter than ever. "Lin Yan," suddenly, a beautiful female voice sounded quietly from behind them. Then, a hand as white as snow pressed on Lin Yan's sword, stopping the latter from taking it out. All of Lin Yan's warrior ki that was shooting toward Fan Ki was pushed into the air and transformed into a breeze, almost blowing Fan Ki's shirt up. All of the tension disappeared into thin air. Standing behind everyone, the warrior in the blue-greyish robe who had a sword on his back squinted his eyes and moved his hand away from the hilt of his sword. "Did you see what happened?" The owner didn't move. He didn't even blink. Blackie exclaimed quietly. "The owner is a skilled warrior. We've known this for a long time," Liang Shi replied. "Not just anyone can kill the tyrant and leave with no injuries." His face remained unchanged in front of the crisis. Wushan chimed in. "He's skilled all right." "Truth be told, I've never seen the owner use his skills in real life." Blackie was a little disappointed that he didn't get to see a fight. "I thought we were going to see it this time. Why did he stop?" "This girl looks cold and haughty, but she's smarter than everyone here." Song King-Fawn sneered as he turned to Blackie. "We're all Resident Evil players, so I will give you some advice. Don't think about causing trouble. This girl might turn you into a corpse." "I won't." Blackie laughed. "The owner may be powerful, but he can't be that calm." Song King-Fawn squinted his eyes at Fan Ki. He was the most familiar with Fan Ki's background. "The owner is just a young man who is barely a warrior. There's no way he could improve so fast. There must be something else he's relying on." Song King-Fawn thought. It must be the cultivator behind him. Lanyon didn't understand Nalan Mingshu's actions. She asked, Ms. Nalan, why did you do that? A dark but deep light shone within Nalan Mingshu's icy gaze. What Fan Ki said seemed to have touched her heartstrings. She slowly walked up and asked, if she takes out her sword, will she just be asked to never return? Although the word just isn't appropriate, Fan Ki couldn't help but laugh, but it is what it is. If you don't want to play, feel free to leave. My shop does not allow others to cause trouble. Okay, Nalan Mingshu nodded her head. Then, we'll wait. What? Lanyon thought she heard it wrong and looked at Nalan Mingshu with a shocked expression on her face. We're waiting. The others were all dumbfounded as well. This woman said they'll wait. She is kidding, right? But they immediately saw Nalan Mingshu nodding her head slightly. How could we? Lanyon felt like her brain was going into overdrive. A place like this. After a while, she came back to her senses and looked around. Upon seeing the giant armchair that Fan Ki prepared for them, she asked, Ms. Nalan, would you like to sit here? Before her hand touched the chair, Fan Ki stopped her and said casually, this is my chair. He added, I'm sorry, there aren't that many chairs in my shop. Then, he sat down on his armchair comfortably and went back to ignoring them. Lanyon's face turned green. Is he the owner or not? Are we the customers or not? She glared at Fan Ki with murderous intent, but the latter continued ignoring her. Origins. At the same time, a young man walked into Fan Ki's internet cafe wearing a white shirt and a yellow robe. Behind him were two other young men wearing the same clothes. One was tall and skinny, and the other was short and chubby. It seemed like they were all from the same force. I heard a lot of people talking about a shop called Origins while I was at the Winter Moon Pavilion. Xiao Yu's expression was filled with disdain as he said, I heard that this shop is quite magical. I'd like to see just how magical it is. He pushed open the door and quickly saw what was written on the blackboard. A rundown shop like this doesn't even accept gold. Just crystals. Who's the owner? He immediately shouted. Fan Ki's face lit up with surprise as he turned around. I am. A piece of jade was hung from this young man's waist, along with a green silk ribbon. His hair was tied with a small purple and gold crown. It was obvious that he was of prestigious status. When the three of them appeared, the auras that surrounded them immediately exposed their identities. They were cultivators. Fan Ki had been living around this secluded shop for years. Although he had seen some cultivators passing by, they were all in their carriages, and he had never seen their faces. This was Fan Ki's first time seeing cultivators this up close. Of course, Xiao Yu was more than an ordinary cultivator. He was the grandson of Xiao Changlong, who is the Tiangang elder of Liayan Taoist Palace, a part of the Wu Taoist Alliance. When Xiao Changlong was young, he took part in the war that led to Dijin's establishment. Later, he was promoted to the elder position and acted as the festival wine chief in Dijing, the capital city, for as long as a century. Even when he retired and went back to his hometown, he still wielded great respect and authority in Dijing City and Jiangnan region. Are they cultivators? They're cultivators. Many in the shop weren't even qualified to speak with cultivators, and they were shocked. Even Song King Fong and the others' expression darkened. Normal cultivators were a lot easier to talk to, but Xiao Yulf was different. He was hard to deal with. Xiao Yulf frowned as he looked around scornfully. He didn't mind the nobles from prestigious families, but why were low-level warriors in this shop as well? When his gaze landed on Fan Ki, the disdain became more obvious than ever. I heard that your shop is interesting and magical. You're right, Fan Ki replied calmly. To him, this man was no more than an ordinary resident of the city. He gestured at the chubby young man behind him. Junior brother Liu, find out what's so magical about this rundown shop. Okay, that chubby man smiled. Come on, let me see what's so interesting about this shop. If I'm happy, everything will be great. If I'm not, there aren't any open spots right now. If you want to try, you have to line up at the back. Fan Ki interrupted him impatiently. Line up. This fatty Liu, along with the other people around him, were shocked by what they heard. This was now more than a matter of playing games. Fatty Liu laughed. Did this owner just ask me to line up? Doesn't he know who we are? Do you want to die? He grabbed Fan Ki's collar ferociously and said, just tell the other people to leave. Why do I have to line up? Fan Ki didn't respond, enraging Liu even more. How dare this owner of a small shop ask me to line up and ignore me as well? I can break your legs in a second. Do you think they're going to cause trouble? Blackie and the others were flabbergasted by what they saw. Fan Ki look down at the fat hand around his collar. His expression darkened. This was the first person to actually lay hands on him. Move your hand away in 3 seconds, or I will assume that you are causing trouble. I didn't think these idiots existed. Song King Fong laughed as he rolled his eyes at Blackie, who swallowed his saliva hard and retorted, he's an idiot. He's scarier than that. This man was a cultivator. Moreover, he was not just any other cultivator. If he were really an idiot, he would be the king of idiots. After all, he was capable of smashing this little shop into pieces in the blink of an eye. Blackie didn't believe that Xiao Yul would compromise like the rest of them did. And like the rest of them, even if Xiao Yul and his 2 peers saw how magical the game was, they would try to take everything for themselves. Song King Fong, on the other hand, smiled without expressing his opinion. Then, they heard Fan Ki counting down. 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Fan Ki snickered as he looked at the fat guy in front of him, as if this guy was an idiot. Time's up. Everyone looked at them in confusion. What does that mean? Will Fan Ki really get into a fight with these cultivators? Prepare to die. This fatty Liu seemed to have realized something and decided to move first. He punched at Fan Ki's face. Troublemakers detected. Lightning punishment activated. Suddenly, an emotionless electronic voice sounded from the shop's loudspeakers. Miss Nalan. Lanyon backed off like a scared little bunny as she cried out to Nalan Mingshu. Watch and learn. Nalan Mingshu opened her mouth and said quietly. Suddenly, without warning, a sharp white light appeared above this fat man's head. Rumble. The small shop was immediately lit up by that white light, turning everyone's faces pale. Then, Fatty Lou began jumping around like he was having a stroke, waving his hands and feet in the air. His hairs all stood up straight, and his entire body was scorched black. The others could smell the scent of burned skin. Then, Fan Ki kicked him right out of the door. The customers were all dumbfounded. They thought Fan Ki was going to be in danger, so they were shocked to see what actually happened. Fan Ki then calmly looked at Xiao Yul. What about you? How dare you injure my people like that? Xiao Yul had never felt so humiliated his entire life. How dare this honor burn my henchman in front of so many people and kick him out like that? That was equivalent to slapping him on his face. Beat him up, he pointed at Fan Ki and shouted, beat him up until he dies. Less than 10 seconds later, the tall and skinny man was kicked out of the shop. Like Fatty Liu, his hair was also turned into an afro, and his body was scorched pitch black. Xiao Yul was the only cultivator left in the shop. I dare you to try and hurt me. Rumble. Once again, a streak of lightning shone in the shop. Xiao Yul's body was immediately burned. He opened his mouth and spat out a puff of smoke. Like the other two before him, he was thrown out as well. The entire internet cafe fell into a moment of silence as everyone looked at Fan Ki in shock and awe. The weird rumble and the lightning punishment left everyone dumbstruck. Moreover, did Fan Ki actually throw them out? Even normal cultivators were treated like VIP customers at most of Jiahui's shops and restaurants, but Fan Ki threw them out. Wait, you just wait. How dare you plot against me? Xiao Yul's voice came from outside the shop. I will come back tomorrow and smash your shop into pieces. Ling Yan covered her mouth with her hand and watched as Xiao Yul and the other two cultivators ran away. She thought of what she almost did and felt the sweat soak through her dress. Everyone else who once threatened to smash Fan Ki's shop felt ghouls of bumps appearing on their bodies as well. How could they have acted so brave and arrogant back then? Fan Ki clapped his hands as if he just did something not even worth mentioning. He sat back down on his armchair and looked at Ling Yan. You should really be thanking that smart girl who you came in with. How bold of you. Finally, two customers reached their time limits and left, and Nalan Mingchu sat down calmly before that computer with an emotionless expression as if nothing happened. Unlike them, we are really curious as to what makes your shop different from the rest. Nalan Mingchu isn't usually like this, Lin Chao muttered under his breath. Huh? Why? Song King Fawn replied quietly. She probably investigated as much as she could before coming. And like Xiao Yul, she's not an idiot. So, would the two of you like to watch the movie or play the game first? Fan Ki asked. Then, he explained the difference between the movie and game to them. A novel. Ling Yan looked at Fan Ki, still a little scared. If Nalan Mingchu didn't stop her, she would have ended up like those three cultivators. The good thing was that she had been stopped. Ling Yan looked at the weird, spiritual artifacts before her. Are these all created by cultivators? Although she had seen quite a few spiritual artifacts made by cultivators, she wasn't sure if these were. She would have to use them first. You should watch the movie. I recommend it. It's absolutely amazing. Blackie smiled and said as he played the role of a nice bystander. I recommend the movie too. There's a lot of basic information in the movie that will help you in the game. Lin Chao rubbed his hands together, looking forward to seeing their expressions after watching the movie. I think newbies should start with the movie. Playing the game first was really hard. 11 Xiao An said in all honesty. The movie is for watching, and the game is for playing. Nalan Mingchu's profile looked like a never-melting ice statue. Her eyes were filled with logic and reason and she said, 90% of the players here recommended the movie because it's shocking. I can learn something, and it's good for newbies. Plus, I wanted to start by watching. I guess I'll pick the movie. Nalan Mingchu made her decision. Upon hearing Nalan Mingchu's choice, Ling Yan naturally picked the same one. However, she wasn't convinced by this shop. If Nalan Mingchu didn't insist on coming, she would never have even laid eyes here. A novel. What a joke. The owner of the shop might be strong, but creating games is a waste of his talent, she thought. Soon, they were taken into the world of Resident Evil. Virtual reality? Nalan Mingchu heard students talk about it at the Lin Jian Academy. Therefore, when she noticed that she was in a lifelike world, she immediately thought of these words. This is virtual reality? Ling Yan, who was sitting beside her, was completely dumbfounded. Is this an illusion? How could this be? How could it be so real? At the same time, information began going into her brain. At the beginning of the 21st century, the Umbrella Corporation. 21st century? What a weird era name. The Red Queen are these artifact spirits. Do they work inside a giant spiritual artifact? The more Ling Yan watched, the more shocked she became. Some things were completely beyond her understanding and imagination. However, for some reason, she understood what every word meant. It was as if she could obtain new knowledge and skills while watching the movie. Is this really a warrior inheritance? Although she didn't want to admit it, this movie was really similar to a warrior inheritance. No wonder those warriors drew this comparison. The plot of the movie was extremely intense. Moreover, it was an independent story, so it was fine even if they hadn't played the game yet. Therefore, Ling Yan was quickly immersed into the movie.